Business Connects. And so again, welcome to our Health, Wealth, and Wise Business Connect for January of 2021. Crazy, crazy, crazy that we're almost at the end of January already, 2021. So 1 month down. And, it seems like, COVID is slowly moving in the right direction, but the emphasis, I think, is on the word slowly. So we're all just taking it one day at a time and keeping our fingers crossed. And I guess that's all we can do when there's so many events beyond our control. But welcome. Tonight, as you can see on the screen, we have a Health, Wealth, and Wise Business Connect, and our theme tonight is Arise. And I couldn't think of a better theme in the middle of, kind of so much anxiety and stress out there. How do you arise, right? How do you continue to put one foot in front of the other? And so we're going to talk about that tonight. But before we do that, one of the great things about these Healthy, Wealthy, and Wise Business Connects, because Connie's going to be speaking, and then I'm going to try to follow up after Connie, and we all know that's not going to go as well as it could. But hey, I got Diane there. She's going to pray for me, and maybe Luann can throw some positive thoughts my way. I know you, because you love me, and I love you guys too. But probably first and foremost is the whole idea of connections. And Cynthia and Luann, and I know many of you, Catherine, Diane, we've been there in person for these events. And of course, all of that was pre-pandemic. And you guys know just the incredible energy, the incredible vibe that we've had. Connie, you've been there for sure. Who else? I guess, well, that would be about it, And of course, it's tough to duplicate that kind of energy. How many of you know that, and I've heard that from so many people, on a call today, a coaching call with a grown man who's a tradesman who works with his hands, and he was almost in tears talking about the impact of the lack of social connection. So this is hitting people on such a profound level. So why am I saying that? Not to depress us, but because we have to do what we can. How many of you know that, right? That's why we're doing this. If we allow those connections to fray, it's really not going to go well in the end for us. So what I'd love to do here is, when we do this in person, it's really cool because there'll be 50 or 80 or 100 people in the room, and people just stand up and introduce themselves. And, you can stand if you want, you can, but you don't have to. You can stay seated if you're comfortable. And I think what would be cool is just to do, sort of a 30-second professional storytell, and emphasis on the 30 or less. And one interesting thing about you that people don't know, and then one thing you can do to help us, and perhaps one thing we can do to help you. And I think that's sort of the best way to sort of navigate life, isn't it? And so who'd like to start? Whoever would like to start, just unmute yourself and let us get to know you a bit. And not everybody has to do this, by the way. We're only going to be able to hear from 2 or 3. But why don't we do that as a starting place? So who'd like to begin? Oh, Luann. How are you?
I love this kind of stuff. So I will absolutely start.
Awesome.
So I'm Whitmarsh, and what I love about the pandemic is the lessons that we've learned. So we can all sit around and be depressed or whatever, but I just choose to take the lessons. I've had to learn to slow down and pause and be quieter. And so for me, that's a really important thing. I'm a social worker. I love being around people. So this has been a challenge for sure to go through the pandemic. A thing that you won't probably know about me, let's think. I almost died when I was a child. Look at me, I'm okay now. My poor parents, actually, because they were, I was in a big accident. And the doctors went out and told my parents I died. And then the nurse came running out saying, no, she didn't. So my poor parents went through it. I don't remember anything. There you go.
Wow, that's crazy.
One of the things that I've learned in my life is how to listen. And I can do that for you. And I appreciate that part of me, because I don't listen to answer, I listen to listen. And actually, I would love the same from whomever I'm talking with, is to just let the story be. And so thank you so much for all you guys, and especially the team, Abe and Connie and Cynthia. You're amazing, and I love you.
I was almost killed when I was almost died. Time I attracted.
It sounds a bit weird, Abe, the microphone.
Can you hear me okay? Okay, good. Yeah. So I just said, I'm so glad that you didn't pass, Luann, because you're amazing. And, you know, we're so grateful to have you. So who'd like to go next?
I will, as being a new member, Abe, if that's okay.
Please do. Thank you.
So I am Therese McCogue, and I am a middle school principal here in Calgary. And I have had a very wonderful yet interesting past in having a variety of careers. And probably one thing a lot of people don't know about me is that I have been very fortunate to share the ice with many Canadian champions along my skating career. When I look at supporting others, I feel that's something that I love to do, and it's part of my role. And I agree with the lady who just spoke that the listening, to listen to others and be there for them. And sometimes it's not even saying a word; it's just being there. So that is the type of person I am. For other people to do for me, I'm looking for advice as starting out new and looking at a coaching career and transitioning to that. I'm looking for just, what worked for them, and how did they continue to push themselves forward.
I just love that, Teresa, and thank you so much for sharing that. It's really a cool story. And just building on what Luann had said about the power of listening. So thank you. And everybody, Teresa joined Healthy, Wealthy, and Wise in December. And so we're grateful that she's here today. So that's just awesome. So I think we've got time for one or two more. Who'd like to share next? All right, Lori, go for it.
So Lori Friesen, I'm in Winnipeg, and kind of keeping on that theme of listening, which of course is so important if it is coaching that we're getting involved with. I like to listen to the messages of my dreams, and I do a lot of dream interpretation for clients. I bring that into our coaching sessions. I've been interpreting dreams since I was a child for people. So if anyone has like an interesting dream or a recurring dream that I could provide maybe some insight into, I'd love you to reach out. I'd be happy to do that for anyone. And I guess what I appreciate from the group is just hearing everyone's experiences, stories. It's always such a gift to just hear from like-minded people. And so just very grateful tonight.
Wow, that's so cool. Love that. That's great, Lori. I'm going to start calling you Joseph after this, Anyways, so we got time for one more. If somebody wants to share, I'd love to hear from one more. Okay.
I'll go if there's.
Okay. Diana, go ahead.
Someone else. Okay. Well, I'm very new. I just took the course. My main goal is I'm having a little bit of trouble just streamlining where to start with coaching, like what kind of type of coaching. I do want to start a pregnancy loss support system. And I recently lost a baby, so I'm in Medicine Hat. We don't have any supports here. So I'm in supports in Calgary, but I feel like we're just needing that in Medicine Hat. So that's kind of my starting point at this stage. But I'm excited to meet you all and hear about your journeys.
Thanks, Diana. Appreciate that. That's quite a story, and it's amazing, what hardship and pain can do for us, right? Because it can give us a vision for how we can help and support others. how many of you have had that in your own life, right? You've walked through some hard things, and yeah, it's been tough, but you allowed it to give you a bit of a sense of, you know, how you could begin to take that pain and turn it into something that could sort of benefit and bless others. And so that's a great perspective. Love that, Diana. Thank you. So, so on that note, folks, I guess what we can do is continue tonight. Welcome, and you know, our leading speaker tonight is Connie Jakab, and I know many of you know Connie. Some of you may not, and so for the sake of you, those who don't, you can see her bio on the screen. I'm not going to read every word because I think you guys all know how to read. But you know, Connie is a woman, I'm going to say, who is just dynamic, and she's given her life for over the last 2 decades. I think essentially you could say to supporting people in their mental health and well-being. I was talking to somebody about Connie today, or they were talking to me, and I think one of the things that we said, and I haven't had a chance to relay this to you yet, Connie, it was all good, was I think that Connie gives people courage. I think if you could say, what is the special gift that she brings to the world? There's many, but I think when people listen to Connie, they walk away and they feel like, hey, you know what? You know, look at her, and how inspiring that is, and how courageous and how brave that is. And I think people walk away and say, I can do that. And I think that's the true definition of inspiration. You know, I don't want to just inspire people and make them feel good for 5 seconds. I want to give them that bravery that I can go do this now for myself. And Connie definitely does that. And I'm blessed to work with her every day in Wellness Innovate and Flourishing Workplace. And so without further ado, turn over to Connie Jakab. Thank you so much, Connie. And let's give her a virtual hand if we can. That would be great. Thank you.
Oh, thanks, Abe. Wow, that really, I'm echoing. There we are. I'm really blessed to hear that, because I think if I ever wanted anyone to say something, it would be that. That is kind of my mission in life, just like narrowed right down. And so I really appreciate hearing that. And Abe, like, you just give me wings to do what I'm good at and covers what I'm not good at. So tonight, everyone, I am not a slides person. If I ever do slides for anything, like I know we did a conference a little while ago, Emerge, and I created slides for that. I leveled up. But you know, on a normal day, friends, this is what you get. Okay, I definitely, I have my strengths and I have my weaknesses. You know, it's interesting. When Abe was telling that story, I was brought back to when I was 27 years old, and I was just about to be given a responsibility to oversee our children's programs for, I used to be a children's pastor, and I was about to receive being the overseer of all the children's ministries in BC for my denomination. And so I was appointed to that. And I remember going to our district conference, which was quite large, and they were about to bring me up on stage to give my little inauguration speech, if you will. And I remember, you know, getting up there and speaking, and then I went and sat down. And one gentleman came up to me after, and he said, I have to admit, when you walked up to that stage, I was thinking, that's who I voted for. Thanks, buddy. But he said, when you were done speaking, that's who I voted for. and I was taken back to that for a moment, because when you know who you are, and when you stand firm in who you are, not as cocky, but as confident, sure of what you bring to the earth, people catch it. I call it the Carlton effect. I used to teach hip hop in schools. That's why I love middle school. They were my favorite, right? That Katy Perry song, you're hot, then you're cold, you're yes, then you're no. Yeah, that's my 14-year-old. She was writing about him. Middle school is my favorite. They've always been my favorite. Grade 8s, you're cruising through life, grade 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Like, they're just the funniest people on the planet. And so I remember, you know, teaching this in schools, the Carlton factor. Anyone ever watch Fresh Prince back in the day? Anyone? Fresh Prince of Bel-Air? Okay, so you've got the Carlton, and he's got this like dance, and it's not even good. It's not good dancing. It really is just him. But when he does it, we all feel so good. And we just love Carlton because he's being who he is. But Will Smith is the killer dancer of the two of them. But do we think of him? No. Everybody just thinks of doing this. And that's how powerful it is when you step into your light, when you step into who you are. It's the Carlton effect. Others might be like, I've never seen anyone do it that way. I've never thought of it that way. You might feel like you're swimming upstream, but if you stand in who you are and you're doing the work that comes from here, not from here, not copying other people on Instagram, not trying to be anybody else, but when you stand in who you are, it affects people. And you know what it does? It actually sets people free. It sets them free to be who they are. When you pretend to be somebody else, you actually put other people in prison too, because they can catch that. Interesting thing about human beings, we are so neurologically connected. Our mirror neurons start to pick up on, I feel like something's off. I feel like that person is trying to be somebody else. And for some reason, I don't feel like I can be who I am. We pick up on that, the nonverbals, even through Facebook, we can do that, right? But when we show up authentically us, we set others free to be who they are. We literally release prisoners, and we cause bravery to rise in people. And so a lot of the hard work, I would say, and the wilderness that I've had to walk through in my own personal life, and I'm still walking through it, I don't think we ever arrive, is this idea of just being okay with who I am, being okay, beating the drum that I beat to. It is not the same as everybody else. And that's okay. And I'm not for everybody. And that's okay. You're not for everybody. Whenever somebody comes to me and says, you know, I want to coach, or I want to speak, or I want to do something, and I'm like, okay, who's your audience? They're like, everybody. I'm like, oh, no, you're not. No, if you try to reach everybody, you're going to reach nobody. No, not everybody needs your message. And if you try to reach everybody, you know what? You're going to get really disappointed. And then you're going to expect your family and friends to support you. And when you post something on Facebook and your Aunt Bertha doesn't like it, you're going to be bitter. And then everybody who's not winning at that point. You know, you got to know who is your message for. And so this brings me to a question I wanted to ask you tonight was, what is the mandate over your life? I read this in a book this week. What is the mandate over your life? And that really struck me, because that isn't just like, what did you want to be when you grow up? Or maybe you're middle, you know, in your 40s like me, and it's like reinvention time. It's not like, who do I want to be now? It's not even that question. It's not even, what are your dreams? What's your purpose? No, what is the mandate on your life? There's a reason why you're here. You were born to rise up. You were born to bring a solution. You were born with something very significant and special in your life. And so you're here on purpose. There's a mandate that's yours. And if I don't show up, guess what? Other people will not get to rise up. Now, no pressure, right? I mean, it doesn't mean that if I don't show up, they won't. I mean, there's ways. You know, I believe in God. God will cause things to happen for other people. But here's the thing. I need to rise up. I need to show up. I need to do the things that I'm supposed to do in my life so that I can play my part. I remember speaking at Teachers Convention. I think it was 2 years ago here in Calgary. And I was just leaving the room, and this other gentleman who was going to present came in, and I wish I had it with me, but he passed me this little sachet, and I pulled out a puzzle piece. Like, this was the weirdest hello I've ever had in my life. It was, you know, hello, my name is Connie. He's like, hi, my name's Sam. And he pulls out this sachet, like he's kind of a mystic. And he said, I want you to just pull out whatever you get. And it was a little puzzle piece. And he said, what does that represent to you? I'm like, well, I guess it means that this is the part that I play. And he's like, yes, but you actually are now missing. Your part is missing from the collective that's still left in the sachet. And I just, it was the weirdest interaction I've ever had in 5 minutes, but I'll tell you, it was profound. I keep that little puzzle piece in my wallet. It reminds me that I have a part to play, and that when I'm playing my part, and I'm not trying to squeeze my puzzle piece into where it shouldn't be. Have you ever tried to do that? I'm not a puzzle person, guys. My husband over Christmas, I mean, he did the biggest puzzle ever. I just looked at him like he was the weirdest person on the planet. I do not do puzzles. They drive me nuts. I will try to make a puzzle piece fit. That's what I'll do. But we all know that that doesn't work. And it's the same thing with us. When we try to fit ourselves somewhere, you know what we end up feeling? We end up feeling like, what's wrong with me? How come coaching works for everybody else, but not me? How come everybody else seems to be more successful, but not me? How come, I guess I wasn't born for this. I guess I just should give up. I guess, you know, dreaming is for other people. It's because your puzzle piece is trying to go into the wrong place. And if you can figure out where that puzzle piece is supposed to go that you carry, I promise you, everything you put your mind to, everything you set your heart to, everything you do will actually work because it's fitting. But oftentimes, you know, someone will say to me, you know, I want to be the next Brene Brown. I want to be the next Tony Robbins. And I'm like, we already got them. We need you. I'm just trying to be the next Connie Jakab. Who is Connie supposed to be tomorrow? And so who are you and what is that mandate over your life becomes a really important question, so that you can stay in your lane and figure out, like, the world is your oyster now. You know, gone are the days where everything is local. Your coaching business is not dependent on your small town, your city. If you're niche down enough, you can literally reach the entire globe right now. Did you know that? So my message of bravery, or our message of flourishing workplaces, all we have to do is know how to pay for a Facebook ad, and we could have clients in Germany, Australia, Japan, if we could just learn how to speak it. Like, the world is your oyster. You know, if you've been called to go to other countries, if you have other countries on your heart, well, guess what? That mission is now coming to you through this beautiful little computer. We just did a nationwide mental health conference today on my computer. It was the weirdest feeling ever. I went and packed it in my bag. I said to my husband as I was leaving the house, I'm like, I literally am holding a national conference on my shoulder. Strangest thing ever. And so I want to open your mind to think that the possibilities right now in our world, and people, they're looking at the news and they're watching conspiracy theories and they're blaming things on governments and they're making predictions of what's going to happen. But can I just tell you that in crisis, there are always opportunities, and the people who have their minds, they know who they are, and they start looking where other people aren't. They get their eyes fixed. They focus in and they go, no, there's opportunities right now. Because every time there's a crisis, that's when the heroes rise up. The chiefs, that's when they rise up. They arise in crisis. Your solutions were meant for right now. And so I would encourage you to keep your mind away from, well, it's not really time. No, there's so much opportunity. I released a book in the middle of our quarantine when COVID first hit. And I thought, oh, this is going to be horrible. No one's going to buy this book. Well, first of all, I sold out. And I also sold out. I thought, you know what? I can't do a book release. So maybe we'll do a conference. Yeah, we'll do a conference. And then I thought, well, what if I call up a couple of psychologists that I could never afford to hire to do an actual event? Why don't I just ask them if they would come on for 15 minutes on a Zoom? Guys, I got some really heavy hitters. I got the Institute of Child Psychology on this conference. I got Dr. Jody Carrington. Like, I got people who would have costed me at least $2,000 to $5,000 doing it for free. We sold out the conference at 500 people. And I'm telling you, if I would have been thinking, oh, poor me, quarantine, COVID, I would have never seen that opportunity. But instead, I'm like, there's got to be something here. How do I serve? How do I help? That's what I love about Abe. Abe, in the middle of quarantine, right in the middle of COVID, how do we serve? How do we help businesses? How do we just come online? We did weekly webinars. Every week we did a free webinar for I don't know how many weeks, 3 months. Just came and served our community. And out of that has come contracts, has come fruit, because he decided, I'm not going to just sit back. I'm going to move forward when everybody else is scared out of their mind. So I want you to think about that. Opportunities are not there for just the select few. It's there for whose eyes are open. And so open your eyes to see what's there. Oftentimes, you know, when we hit hard things like right now, I often have to go back to what I call the wilderness. I've had wilderness experiences. Anyone else have wilderness experiences? Put yes in the chat if that's you. You're like in the wilderness, meaning like tough times, like things that you just never thought that you could get through, right? Yes, for sure. And those are your epic moments. That is where you are born. We dream from the dirt. We don't dream from high, lofty clouds. In fact, I feel like the more compressed and suppressed and crushed people get, the more opportunity there is to dream. I think about our young people. Young people just burn on my heart. My own son, 14. Just like the world is just huge. Netflix, how many choices does he have? I had 2 channels, 2 times a day. You know, some of you remember like saying, do you have a black and white TV or a color TV, right? Like, do you remember those days? We didn't have a lot of choice. And now our kids have so much choice and they're not dreaming. I tell you what, sometimes we want the freedom, we want the release, we want the options, but I'll tell you, we get lazy in those moments. The constriction of your life it's pressed down and it's brought forth some wine. Those grapes being crushed has brought forth something that pleasure and success can't bring. So I always say, you know, what has risen out of the ashes of your life? What has been those dirt moments, those moments where you hit rock bottom and there was only one way to go? It was either up or further into the ground, right? Those are the things that define you. And when you can discover that, like losing a baby, Diana, you find something that was hard and you turn that into something that can help someone else. That's powerful. That's what brings life to dead places. That's what creates rivers when there's just desert everywhere. That's what allows people to find freedom from their captive mind, is when you turn your brokenness into something that is beautiful. I don't get it. It's just amazing how it happens. And so for you, I would ask you tonight, who are you? What's the mandate over your life? And what has risen from the ashes? What has risen in you? Because I'll tell you what, that's what's going to connect with people. Guys, online, there are so many people out there going, hey, I've got the 3 steps to 1, 2, 3, and this will give you this result. But you come in there with something real. You come in there with a story that moves people's hearts, because we connect with people not through information, but emotion. Emotion is what moves people. Emotion is what's going to get them to sign up for your coaching program. Well, how do we do that? How do we get people's emotions moved? Well, through story. Telling your story. Your story has the power to shift culture. And your voice, I believe that this year, specifically 2021, is a year where people's voices are being liberated. The voices where before you were like, oh, who do I think I am? I should just like, I should hold back. I should muzzle, or people have tried to muzzle your voice. Actually, what I see is I see that muzzle coming off of your lips and you having liberation there to speak what has been in your heart for a long time. Is this resonating with anybody? Is this hitting you? If so, put yes in the chat. Let me know. Let me know, because, you know, sometimes you think, am I off my rocker? Oh, there you go. Awesome. Cool. Ha! Hell yes. Good. Well, I like a good hell yes. That's wonderful. I'm curious. I'd like to ask you another question. What has risen from the ashes of your life? If you could name it in a short sentence or a word, for me, it is bravery. Bravery has risen from every broken moment of my life. And that is why it catches. That's why it catches, is because it's a part of me and it's risen from some really dark places. Resilience, courage, resilience. Yes. What else? Put it in the chat. Faith, compassion. Yes. These are so good. If you can name them, then you have some focus, belief, faith, overcoming, hope. Good. Yes. Resilience, hope, self-love. These are excellent. Once you can define them, then you can start to create out of these moments. What can you create around self-love? What can you create around resilience and compassion? This is where creativity is birthed. How many of you got a word for the year? Any people words for the year? You know, like my word for the year is, did anyone else do that? Yeah. My word for the year. So I always start my year, you know, with just, you know, my personal faith. And so I asked for my word, and this was the word I got for this year was constraint. I'm like, are you serious? That is so unsexy. That is not very fun. That doesn't even sound great at all. Like, why can't we have like acceleration or whatever? But I got the word constraint. And you know what? I'm learning the beauty of focus, understanding my mandate, understanding who I am, understanding what's risen from my ashes, and now constraining that instead of like, I'm everywhere doing everything. Somebody asked me to do this. Somebody asked me to do that. Join this, join that, start this, do that. No, focus, narrowing in. Laser focus. If it doesn't fit with my constraint, it gets pushed away, or I say no. Because I'll tell you what, a lot of people don't arise because they're everywhere. They're joining every challenge, they're listening to every webinar, they're just sucked into every scheme out there, like how to get 5,000 Facebook followers in 3 seconds and they'll sign up, right? Laser focus. That is what's going to get you to your dream. That's what's going to get you those clients, is laser focus and constraint from doing things that just aren't meant to be done. What's the chaff that needs to be burned off? All success even has chaff. Every time I succeed at something, every time I do something, something has to fall away. And so this time last year, I was I had resigned from my company. I felt I was supposed to let that go. And this was something that I did for 20 years. This was something I was good at. This was something that was familiar. And now I was like, I'm not, I don't even know what I'm going to do. And it was really humbling after I made the decision. You know how sometimes you make a brave decision, you think the universe owes you? Yeah, I've discovered the universe owes me nothing. God owes me nothing, because you make a brave decision. And then I couldn't even get a job at Indigo. That was humiliating. I'm like, I have a bachelor's degree and I'm educated and I've been working for a long time. I've owned my own company and I can't get a job at a bookstore. It was a really low moment for me. And then I talked to Abe. And he invited me to join him with Wellness Innovate. This was last December, January. And I am so thankful that was just like, that was open. Abe was willing. People, there's always an option. People are a great resource. I reached out to a friend. I reached out to someone, and I would have never guessed the ride we were going to be on. And now this year, you know, I am continually laying down. This is not a popular message. A lot of people think, yes, arise. What's risen from the ashes of your life? Who are you? What's the mandate on your life? And now I want you to lay it down. What? Lay it down? to join something else, to collaborate, to work alongside. I heard the most beautiful quote in a book that I read called Significance by Bill Johnson. He says, when you lend your strength to others, then you glean from others' strengths. When you submit your strength to somebody else, you glean from their strength. But submission, I don't know what that word does to you, but it doesn't sit well with a lot of people. A lot of people, solopreneur, right? I am my own. And probably for me, it was for a reason. It's because I didn't work well with people. I was a wild child. I was a gypsy. I had my ideas. I will not be conformed by the man. I want to smash the patriarchy. I'm going to change the world by myself. And now here I am, being encouraged in my heart to join, collaborate, submit my strengths to a team. And I gotta say, guys, I love being constrained. I have learned the joy of constraint, of not having too many options. And yet, the irony of it is when you're constrained, your options increase. When you join a team, you can go this far. The lie is that you go this far on your own, but with a team, I mean, it is just unlimited. And our culture tries to sell us a message of go it alone, do it by yourself. You're a self-made person. But that, I mean, at the end of your life, guess who you are? You're Thanos. Have anyone seen the Avengers? Thanos was all by himself. He won, he conquered the world, and he's sitting there at the end of the Avengers just looking out by himself. That's no way to live. We were meant to do things in connection and community, and we do so much together. That's why groups like this are important, to be connected to something. And so I want to encourage you that when constraint comes, to listen to it and to not rebel or try to push away from it, because it will actually give you more options than you know. And so what I've learned from dreaming big, well, it takes time. Big dreams take time. You got to know who you are. What's the mandate over your life? What has risen from the ashes of your life so that you have risen, now others can too. And who can you serve? Who can you come alongside with and grow with and strengthen along the way? And that will take you really, really far. Thanks so much, everybody.
Awesome. That was great. You guys, let's give a big hand to Connie. And I just really loved that. That was just fantastic. And can you guys all hear me okay? Or I'm on okay, good. That was fantastic. So, I hope that you guys really took that in, because as we go into a new year, like, you have no idea what sort of things partnership can unlock for you. And that's a big part of what we want to think about and talk about here tonight. So I'm going to share in just a moment, but before we do that, I think it would be cool to hear from maybe one or two of you. Again, just a couple of more connections, just to hear who's here in the house tonight, and what you've got to share about yourself. So I know before, Stephanie, you were going to do it. Are you still wanting to do that here tonight?
Hi everyone. Yeah, sure I can. So yeah, I'm Stephanie, and I have my own coaching business, Phenomenally You Life Coaching, and it's a little over a year, and I absolutely love it. I guess one interesting thing that people don't know about me, I don't know, everyone know the Mind Bender crazy roller coaster in West Edmonton Mall? When I was 13 or 14, my brother and I went on it 13 times in a row, because that was such a low to hit, and there was no lineup, so we just went on and off 13 times in a row. So that was one of my fun, crazy memories of childhood. When I look at one way to help or support another person, the first thing I always think of in my work, both in my full-time job as a counselor and in my life coaching business, is to never assume. and always ask someone how I can be most helpful to them. I want to hear from you what works well for you. And I guess really it does go the same way for what I would expect how someone can help me. And it's really that thing of not assuming and seeking first to understand and learning more. And I really like, when Luann said earlier, listen to listen, not just listen to answer. And so when you ask someone how you can be
That's great.
helpful, make sure that you're actually listening.
Love
That's a
it.
powerful thing too. So
So good. Thank you. That's really good. Thanks a lot. Thank you, Stephanie. And maybe one more, just to get to know some of you here tonight. Okay, everybody's shy, eh? You guys are shy.
I'll go.
Okay, Mr. Phil, go for it.
Hi, my name is Phil, and I'm an alcoholic. No, I'm just kidding. um, so my professional story is I've been all over the map trying to figure out what I want to do with my life, and turns out that I've always been doing it. I've always been a mentor and coach to everyone throughout my whole life since I told them that I was a coach. They're like, "Oh yeah, that's right." Seems like everyone else knew that that's what I should be doing with my life except me. So yeah, I started my coaching just in the last few months, and I'm super excited, super grateful for all of you as well. One interesting thing about me that people don't know, well, that's a tough one. I've been thinking about that this whole time, and I honestly can't come up with anything. I grew up in Airdrie. I'm born and raised here. I don't know. I got nothing.
Okay.
Um,
Well,
one,
hey,
one way you can help that I can help or support other people. I mean, I think Abe said in the beginning, for both the third and fourth question, I think is important right now is just that we need to support each other right now in times where um, we need to be connected. Like we're so disconnected. Like this doesn't count. Like it counts, but it's not the same as being connected. So reaching out to one another, checking up on people, not just through coaching, but in our families. I think it's important to check up on people as well because as someone who struggled with mental illness in my life too, most times people are silent sufferers. So it's nice to just have that little bit of connection. So that's mine.
that's great. That's really good. Well, thanks so much, Phil, and thanks everybody for sharing. And so I'm going to share a couple of thoughts here tonight. You guys know me. I don't know that I need too much of an introduction, so we'll just go back past that slide really quick. But I do want to talk about the secret key that determines your destiny. Okay, so how many of you are ready for that? Okay, and I'm going to try to have some fun with it tonight, but it's actually true. I want to talk about the secret key that probably straight up more than anything else determines your destiny. And here it is. More than anything else, I really believe, and the research shows that your destiny is actually determined by your relationships. Did you know that? And even in sort of the social sciences and sort of in the whole area of behavioral psychology, even how you behave, how you act, how you respond to stimulus around you has a lot to do with people around you. And so I want to talk about relationships tonight, and more specifically partnerships. Now, how many of you have had different partnerships over the years in your life? Any of you guys have gone into them? They could be business partnerships, they could be relationships, they could be different types of connections. We've all had them. In the professional space, I've been either lucky or unlucky or just sort of living, depending on how you see it, to have had some crazy, amazing partnerships in the for-profit world, but also some really bad partnerships. I mean, I remember my first actual business partnership. The guy literally robbed me, not exaggerating, about $45,000 at a time when I was really vulnerable. And I mean like actual robbery, And so it was a tough lesson for me. And so I then went from that partnership into another partnership where I was manipulated, and then I thought to myself, well, this is crazy. You know what I'm going to do? That for-profit world, that's for awful people. I'm going to go into the nonprofit world, only to find that the nonprofit world was even more devious than the for-profit world, right? Because in the for-profit world, they did it to your face, but in the nonprofit world, they were very polite to your face, but their knife as they stabbed you in the back was even sharper, And so how many of you know what I'm talking about, right? I mean, I'm sharing this just to say I've had some bad experiences, but I'm also happy to say I've had some amazing experiences. I got to be honest with you. I guess the bottom line, folks, is this: the very worst things in my life have come through partnerships, and the very best things in my life have come through partnerships, right? And so here's what I want you to know: that your potential is about your partners, and your future is about your friends, okay? And so how many who would agree with me when I say that destiny demands collaboration, right? You cannot do it alone. So that means you've got to choose wisely, right? Because, we've all heard Jim Rohn, and I'm going to quote him later, but if you want to understand your future, look around at your 5 or 6 closest friends. How many of you know what I'm talking about tonight, right? And so, there's no point in blaming them when you're the one who chose them. And so, here's the reality that 80%, and this is according to the data, of business partnerships ultimately fail. And, if you extrapolate that to, let's say, marriages, we know that about 45% of marriages in North America actually fail as well. And if you add sort of second and third marriages in that, then the number actually goes up to 50-60%. And so, partnerships in life and in business can be one of the most effective and sustainable ways to grow. But how many of you know they can also be difficult, they can be stressful, and frankly, they can be terrifying. And I have to tell you that I was so badly burned that it took me a long time to have my heart heal, while I was really ready to look at partnerships, right? And there was almost an anger about being a solopreneur because I was hurt, and I was angry about that hurt. I wasn't angry, at one person. I was just angry that I had trusted. I was almost more angry at myself than the people who hurt me, because how stupid was I, to trust? And I got angry about that. But then as my heart healed, I started to realize that actually this whole partnership thing, we actually need it. And so what I want to talk about here tonight is sort of how it is you can figure out partnerships. Now, when I'm using the word partnerships, by the way, I want to be clear that I'm not necessarily talking about like you sitting down writing a legal document, okay? I think that partnerships absolutely can be that, but I also think that partnerships can be collaborations, right? Partnerships can be, hey, let's do a joint venture on something. Let's team up on a project. Let's team up on something. Hey, let's just get together once a week and check in with each other and hold ourselves accountable, maybe to our exercise goals, maybe to, our business goals, whatever that is. So partnerships take on lots of different forms. But here's what I've discovered about partnership. And this might sound confusing, but when you think about it, it'll make sense. If you want actionable synergy, then the vision needs a partnership. And the partnership needs a vision. Okay, so let's talk about this phrase, actionable synergy. What does that mean? How many of you have had like great synergy with people in the past? Many of you had that, like you just vibed out with that person. You just clicked. You got around them and you just felt like, man, I love this person and I just met them. And it's not like romantic, it's just actually that chemistry thing that goes on. How many of you have had that? I mean, I've had that. The problem was it wasn't actionable. And the reason for that is that some of the areas that needed to line up weren't there. On the other side, I've had actionable, but not the synergy. Okay, does that make sense? So I guess one is about chemistry, and then the other is about competence. And how many of you know that when the chemistry and the competence come together, now what you have is actionable synergy? And I just want to go through life having all this chemistry with people, and that's great, but we never get anything done. On the other hand, I'm getting too old to just get stuff done with people that I don't like. Okay, if I can be straight up, people that irritate me, people that make me want to gouge out my own eyes, right? I mean, how many of you know at a certain point in your life, you kind of let that happen, and then you get to a point where you realize, you know what, I want to be around people that I like, not because I'm like some kind of fussy, old crotchety person, but because really when you combine chemistry and competence, how many of you know now you've got something? But that vision that you have for your life, you need a partner. You can't get it done on your own. And the partnership also needs a vision, because without that, it's not going to hold together. So how do you leverage this secret key of relationships? And as you're coming into 2021, I feel this really strongly for you on this call tonight, that some of you will not be able to unlock your destiny without the right relationships. You just won't. And yet that creates a profound weakness in us, because I need you and you need me. And so what I don't want you to do is to let that weakness become a vulnerability, you know? In other words, have the humility to understand you can't do it on your own, but just don't go out there being so desperate that you'll fall for anything, because you need to be strategic in your partnership. You need to have boundaries. You need to protect yourself. And I haven't done that in the past, and I've paid the price. And I bet you some of you have too, right? So I know I'm sort of preaching to the choir, as they say. So let me give you a couple of things about leveraging the secret to relationships. Number one is values. If there's one thing I've found in my 22 years on the earth, because I'm only 22, and I know some of you are shocked by that because you thought I looked 18, but I'm actually 22. No, if there's anything I've learned in my few decades on the earth, it's that values mean everything. How many of you know that, right? You know, you can be attracted to somebody, either romantically or in the professional sense. You can like being around them, but if you don't share the same set of values, that thing will not last. I settle the values thing as quick as possible. You know, I'm on my second marriage, and this is going to be my last. Even if it fell apart, I wouldn't get married again because I would be convinced that I'm a failure. Okay. But that's just for me. And I tell you, this one's not going to end. And I think a part of the reason why is, you know, my first marriage, and I'll just open up with you. I was 22 years old at the time. And I had just been turned into the senior pastor for this church in a little town in Nova Scotia. I was single. I was 22. I had been raised in an abusive environment. I didn't even know myself, let alone like what I was really doing there. And after I took on the job, the elders of the church, these are like the board members, they came and they said, you know, you should probably get married pretty soon. Right? Now, I wasn't even dating anyone at the time. I was pretty happy single. How many of you have ever been happy single, right? Because I was kind of like, I need to get to know myself. Like, I don't need some relationship. Like, I need to know myself. But because I was so weak and sort of vulnerable and insecure, I you know, these guys were technically my bosses. And so I thought, I got to get married. Guess what? 3 months later, I asked someone to marry me, and within 6 months of them telling me I needed to get married, I was standing at the front of the altar in that church saying my wedding vows. I didn't even know myself, let alone know her. And of course, the marriage lasted 10 years. We worked really hard to try to do everything we could. I'm not happy to say that like 98% of the failure of that marriage is probably on me. I never blame her. But you know, the reality is that we didn't take time to align in values. Now, contrast that to the woman that I'm with now. And by the way, July of this year is our 10th anniversary. And I'll tell you, we're really excited. And we dated for 3 years. Part of that 3-year dating was I was on the other side of the country working in Halifax for a year of that. So we allowed our relationship to go through the test of understanding, do our values align? The greatest warning signal to you that a relationship that you might be in, and I'm talking every type here, you know, is not for you, I think, and I'm saying this with humility, but I think it's values, right? Because you can put up with a lot of things, personality quirks, and people can learn new skills, and you can adjust written contracts and all of that. But if the values aren't aligned, I just don't think it's going to work. The second thing is vision. So values is important because values speaks to who you are. But vision is important because vision speaks to where are you going. And no matter how much I like you, if I'm going this way and you're going that way, how many of you know we're just not going to be able to have a partnership? That doesn't mean we don't like each other. I mean, how many of you have ever come to a place in a relationship where you just outgrow it? You realize that you're just headed this way and they're headed that way. And it doesn't mean one is right or wrong. It just means it's different. And I think that this whole idea of leveraging relationships, you got to look at values, but secondly, you got to look at vision. Number 3, I think you do need to look at vibe, right? And how many of you know, like some people, I mean, you know, we should almost build a vibe scale because some people have no vibe. It's kind of like a neutral vibe, you know, you're like, is there any vibe in there? You know what I mean? Now, some people like Connie, I mean, every day I'm opening up Instagram and there's a new dance and she's just vibing out, right? I mean, you know, and I love it. I think it's great. Maybe I should try that. But none of you would even feel sorry for the white guy who has no rhythm, because even, you know, what they say, the hips don't lie. And I'll tell you what, there ain't no hips. You know, I dance with my shoulders. That's what my wife tells me. And she says, just like all the other white people. And so that's kind of her opinion. But then she saw Connie and she realized it was just white men, not white people in general. Anyways, that's besides the point. You know, there's something about some folks, they just have a vibe. And it's not so much about, are you an introvert or an extrovert or your personality, because, you know, Connie's unique vibe is great, but, you know, I have incredible vibes with lots of people who aren't going to go on Instagram and dance, right? Because it's not about so much the outward behavior, but it's about that chemistry and it's about that connection. The fourth thing that's important is number 4 is tribe. And tribe is the idea of, are we aligning together in sort of normal, in sort of common social groupings, you know, and I think that's important. Not that it has to be that, but if you start getting into a partnership with someone who's not a part of your broader social circle, what you are leaving behind is the protective mechanism of those other relationships who might look and say, hey, wait a second, maybe you shouldn't get too close to that person because they did this, you know, like on the one hand, the whisper network kind of is really bad and destructive. And I'm not a fan of cancel culture at all. On the other hand, how many of you know there can be some little bit of safety that's built in to our social networks? I've had people come and warn me about partnerships that I was considering, and I didn't listen, and it hurt me in the end. Now, I've also had people warn me and they were completely wrong. But at least what I want to do is I want to be in a scenario where I'm hearing the warning. Because if not, I'm not dealing with all the facts. Number 5, target. What are you really aiming for? And I'm going through a partnership situation right now where I'm just realizing what that individual's aiming for and what I'm aiming for, they're just different. And I could get on my high horse and say, oh, they're wrong. It's not about that, right? Maybe they're right, but they're not right for me. Does that make sense, right? It's not me being true to who I am and what my target is. And so, you know, I think we have to have the maturity to not want the relationship so bad that we give up our destiny. You know, I've seen people do that, right? That the need to belong and to connect is so profound that I've seen people give up their future, give up their destiny just because they wanted a particular relationship so bad. And that can be really scary. And I hope none of us do that. I think number 6, and this is sort of the last point about this, is how many of you would agree that relationships that are meaningful, they just take time. And you know, one of the things I say, and this is why I admire all of you so much for taking your time out tonight, is you know, it's like so many times when I'm coaching people, and I mean, I am they call me the coach's coach. I'm not sure why, but I mean, probably because I've just coached all over the world and in thousands and thousands of hours. And one of the things I say to people is this: if the only time you interact with me is in one-on-one coaching sessions, you will not leverage the fullness of what I can provide for you, right? Because you're only in that seeing one side of me. And frankly, I'm probably doing most of the listening when I'm the coach, by the way. And that's the way it should be. And so you need to be in meetings like this. You need to come to live events for him. You need to read the stuff that I write. You need to watch videos that I shoot. Because how many of you agree that time is critical in any relationship? You know, had I taken the time in my first marriage, it may not have ended, but it may never have started. And so do I have any regrets? No, not at all. But there's a learning there. And I think if you miss the learning, then something's wrong. Now, here's the thing that I want to say. In business, and now I'm really speaking specific to business, groups like Healthy, Wealthy, and Wise, groups like CCF, groups like whoever you're into, you know, and this is really important. And I just want to say 2 things about this. In business, partnership always comes down to these 2 things. Number 1, it comes down to the relationship. You will not have a long-term business partnership with someone if the relationship is not there, if the trust isn't there, if you don't like each other. How many of you know that, right? You just won't. It just won't be effective. That's why even these like colossal folks like Steve Wozniak and Steve Jobs, they eventually parted ways. You know, the founders of Microsoft, they part ways because something breaks down in the relationship. But the second thing that you need is you need the direction. There's a lot of people that I have a great relationship with, but we're not headed in the same direction. And so, you know, when people talk about unity, there's a big difference between unity and having sort of a positive acquaintance with people. I can have a positive acquaintance with 1 million people because I'm friendly and you're friendly. But the real question is unity. Unity speaks to more than just, hey, I like you. Unity is about where are you headed? Where are you going? I can't be united with someone who's not heading in the same direction as me. That's why the world right now is in a very scary place, because we're not just fighting over the interpretation of facts. We're actually fighting over the facts themselves, you know? And so, you know, it used to be that we would at least agree on the facts, and then we would, you know, I'd have my interpretation, you'd have yours. But now with all of the fake news and the misinformation that's out there, people are struggling to even understand what's the actual fact pattern that we can actually look at and agree to. And then, sure, we can all make our own opinion and have a direction about it. Here's the reality, folks. Jim Rohn said this: you become, I become, Abe becomes, you become like the 5 people you spend the most time with. And so how many of you think you should choose carefully, right? And here's my take on it: connect only with people that tear you down, people that abuse you, people that are toxic, people that violate your boundaries. Can y'all see that on the screen there? People who mistreat you, people who insult you, and then say, oh, I was just joking. How many of you know that's so wrong? And yet people do it all the time. I think it's so important that we connect only with people that inspire us, people that challenge you to rise higher. Don't look for comfortable friends. I don't want friends who just pat me on the back all the time. How are you with me, right? I want people to challenge me. I want people to call me higher. I want people to make me better or help me become better, right? I don't want to waste my valuable time with people that aren't adding to my growth. My destiny is too important. And let me also say this: be very careful. I mean, very careful about who you share your dreams and ideas with. How many of you with me on that? If you talk to the wrong people about the right idea, your idea might die before it ever conceives and before it ever gives birth. And that's why your destiny, the secret key to determining your destiny more than anything else, is relationships. And so, you know, here's what I want to say again, and I know I just said this on one slide ago, but I'm going to reinforce it here again: partner and connect only with people that inspire you. You know, only with people that challenge you to rise higher, only with people that make you better. And just don't waste your time, your valuable time, with people who are not adding to your growth. So I just want to thank you. I hope that that's been meaningful to you tonight. You know, the reality is that you will be, by the end of 2021, in large part where your relationships have brought you, or where your relationships have held you back from going to. And so I would encourage you to consider, you know, I know many of you are part of Healthy, Wealthy, and Wise. And if you're not, you know, I would encourage you to consider that, right? Because it's a group of people that would allow you, I think, to grow into your best self. And hey, if Healthy, Wealthy, and Wise, the whole program, isn't for you, that's okay too. We want to stay connected. We want to make sure that as a tribe, we support each other and we build each other, as we all are kind of wrestling through some tough times. And so thanks so much, everybody, for joining in. I just want to open it up and see if you have a couple of comments. Anyone has any comments? I know lots of you have been making lots of you know, comments in the chat window, but is there any anyone who just wants to unmute yourself and just share a thought or two, or 20? Not 20, because it's getting late.
Challenge accepted. 20 thoughts a day.
20 thoughts from Phil on a Thursday night.
No, I just want to say thank you to you both. It was like exactly, I said when Connie was done, like prayers answered with both of your messages. With my new job, it's very opposite direction of my coaching and everything. So for me to be able to hear and be spoken into from two people that stand firm in their convictions, something that I've struggled with for a lot of my life. So to hear you guys say like, yes, no, you doing that is the right thing, instead of all the other people speaking into my life, like you said at the end, be careful who you tell your dreams to. So true. I'm like, I need to stop telling everyone all the time I'm excited, but they steal it from you. And they I love Jim Carrey says it, they're fear disguised as practicality. So it's I just want to thank you so much. That was perfectly what I need to hear.
Oh, that's so cool. Thank you, my friend. And it's great to hear that, you were spoken to tonight. So that's just awesome. Anyone else like to share? Luann?
It's so interesting how the universe looks after us in spite of ourselves some days. So I left work today and I was just feeling heavy. It had been a really busy day. There was lots of stuff going on and people having lots of issues. Came home, I was just feeling overwhelmed. And I thought, I'm so not going to go to this. I'm going to curl up in my pajamas and say, to heck with it. But that's not good for me. And I know that's not good for me. And I spent the evening with these powerful people, Connie, Abe, and everyone in the room tonight. And it really just lifted my heart back up. And you always hit home runs. Both of you are inspiring. And all I can say is right time, right place, right people. Thank you.
Oh, I love that. Thanks, Luann. And it's always right time, right people when you're in the room. So thank you. It's great. So one or two more comments, anybody? Well, folks, thank you so much for taking time out of your valuable day. And for sure, we know it's late, and so get some rest tonight. And please stay tuned. Cynthia will be sending you out some details about what will be happening in late February, and it's going to be really awesome. So on that note, thanks everybody, and thanks Connie. That was a great message tonight. Greatly appreciated. And everybody, take care. We'll see you soon.